go?
Well, remember when I said when I was growing up, my mother was a Kansas Methodist and my father was a Brooklyn Jew. So I decided one day that I wasn't that all crazy about Methodism. So I discovered Unity Church, which is a metaphysical Christian church. And I started going to Unity Church. When I moved to Florida, I found an interesting book on prosperity, and I was starting my own business and a consulting business and training, and I knew I needed to get more money and more income. And I was at the library, and where they have the used books for like 25 cents, 50 cents, whatever. There was a book, and the title of the book was Prosperity Secrets of the Ages by Catherine Ponder. And I said to myself, by this time I was an agnostic, as long as there's nothing in this book about God, I'll read it and I'll buy it. Well, mind you, I'm an English literature major, so I know how to read a book, and I know how to peruse a book, and I know how to read the table of contents in a book. And I did just that before I plunked down my 50 cents, and I did not see anything about God in the book. I got home, sat on the couch, got myself a glass of iced tea. I was going to learn how to get prosperity. First thing I see when I open the book and I look at the table of contents is God, God, and more God. So I pointed up to the ceiling where I thought God was, and I said, I'm not making any promises, but I'll read the book. And I did. And it was so fabulous and so just enlightening and so freeing that I looked up the biography of the author in the back of the book, and it said she was a Unity minister. So I went to, in those days there was actually a phone book, and I went to the phone book, the yellow pages, and I looked up churches, and I looked up non-denominational churches, and I found a Unity Church. There were several in the neighborhood. So the first church I went to was Unity in Hollywood, and they had a guest teacher, and all she talked about was the Bible. I wasn't really crazy about the Bible. So then I went to this other one in Fort Lauderdale, and that minister was phenomenal. He talked about positive thinking and affirmations, and he was fabulous. So I thought, this is for me. This is for me. Then I heard there was a Science of Mind church down the street. So I went there, and that minister was fabulous speaker. He had a 3x5 card. That's all he had was some notes on it. And he gave the best talk. So I learned about research and information from the Unity minister, and I learned about speaking from the Science of Mind minister. And so I became a licensed teacher, a Unity licensed teacher. And then I wanted to be ordained. I wanted to go to school. I wanted to be a minister. And they wouldn't take licensed teachers into ministerial school. And I was already practically, I was the office manager at the church. I was everything, volunteering, ushering, you name it, I did it. Bookstore, everything. Teaching, Sunday school, everything. And they wouldn't take me into school, into the ministerial program. So on my way to church one day, the Holy Spirit said to me, Kathy, start your own organization. If they don't want you, start your own. So I called up one of my board members who was a CPA, and I said, I'm coming in on Monday, and I want you to incorporate Independent Unity Churches, Federation of Independent Unity Churches. And he said, you're going to do what? And I said, you heard me. I'll be there Monday morning, 9 o'clock. So I did. I founded the Federation of Independent Unity Churches. And we proceeded to organize a worldwide movement of Unity churches.
What year was this?
2004, 5, 6, like that.
And you've been involved with the Unity Church for how long?
About 8 years, maybe. And so we had the movement. We were all over the world. We had teachers and ministers in Europe and in South America and all over. And when I got my job in Tennessee, as you know, I gave up my church because I got the job. You're going to put that on hold? No, he's calling me. Let me just turn this off.
Job in Tennessee.
Yes.
You gave up your church.
So I gave up my church, and I turned the Federation of Independent Unity Churches over to the vice president and let him, run with that. And so when I came back from Tennessee to Florida, a couple of years later, or I guess it wasn't, maybe a year later, I belonged to a group that was an interfaith group, and on the table at a conference that we had was a pamphlet from the Southern Palm Zen group. And I was always interested in Buddhism because I had to teach world religions as, for ministers, and I really loved Buddhism. So I went one day to the meeting and I never left. And I just kept going back, studying, reading, and got ordained in 2007. I took Jukai in 2009. I was ordained, and now in 2017 I'm going to be Susho Hosin ceremony, which makes me a teacher. And I write a Buddhist blog, and I've written Buddhist workbooks for the prison ministry. We have more than 400 men sitting in Florida prisons, studying, practicing, and meditating. And so I wrote workbooks for them, about 10 of them, on different aspects of Zen Buddhism.